Rebecca, the wronged sister. My name is Rebecca Williams, and I'm 21 years old. If you grew up in a small Colorado town like mine, you'd understand how fast rumors and suspicions could spiral, even in families where trust should be sacrosanct. After Mom passed away when I was 16, I became the unofficial glue trying to hold our patchwork family together. Life changed fast, almost too fast, when Dad remarried Connie, bringing Lily, my 14-year-old stepsister, into the mix. I wish I could say it was a smooth transition, but the truth hit me hard. Overnight, I went from beloved firstborn to the girl always in the wrong place at the wrong time. It started with little slights, Connie misplacing her earrings, only to glare at me as if I'd pocketed them. Lily would break something in the house and, with wide eyes, declare I was the last one in the room. At first, I brushed it off, figuring it was just growing pains, or maybe jealousy. But things got out of hand in a hurry. Suddenly, every mishap, every missing item, even a burned dinner or a misplaced phone, somehow circled back to me. Each time I tried to defend myself, Dad's face hardened a bit more. Most nights, I lay awake, listening to their whispers. I could feel the distance growing between my father and me, a cold, silent chill, settling where laughter and morning pancakes used to be. There were days I wondered if I was invisible or if I'd become a stranger in my own home. Sometimes it was easier to stay out later at the library or volunteer at the animal shelter than go home to a house packed with silent accusations and carefully averted eyes. Yet despite the heartache, I wasn't willing to give up on myself. Even when nobody believed me, even when the burden felt too heavy and the loneliness too sharp, I held on to the hope that someday the truth would come out. If you ask me what kept me going, it was this stubborn spark inside, this belief that no matter how many times I was blamed, I owed it to myself to find my own justice. False accusations that never ended. If you had spent a week under the same roof as me, you would have understood how relentless the accusations were and how they chipped away at a person. It started out small, almost laughable. One afternoon, Connie accused me of stealing $5 out of her purse. I tried to protest, but the sharp look in her eyes dared me to say one more word. That same week, a mug belonging to Lily mysteriously broke in the kitchen, and she swore she'd seen me near the sink just before that. I remember the way Lily's voice trembled dramatically, making it sound like she was the real victim. From there, the blame game amped up. Whenever something went missing, it became routine for everyone to look at me first. My dad barely even talked to me about it anymore. He just exchanged tight-lipped glances with Connie over the dinner table. Orders would arrive, broken in the mail, and, predictably, Lily would sulk and say, "Rebecca must have dropped it." There was even a day when Connie's favorite necklace showed up tangled in my laundry pile. Though I never wore the thing and barely touched her stuff, it didn't matter. No one asked for my side of the story. What stung the most wasn't any single accusation. It was the way these accusations stacked up, day after day, until even the smallest misunderstanding became an indictment. Sometimes, even the dog barking at the door would supposedly be my fault. Rebecca must have left it open, and I got tired of defending myself. Instead of talking to me, my family started talking around me. I could tell by the stiffness in my dad's shoulders, the wary looks Connie shot my way, and the way Lily clung to her mother, like she was hiding from a ghost. The trust that used to live in our home had quietly packed its bags and left, replaced by a constant hum of suspicion I couldn't escape. The father's growing coldness. Dad didn't turn distant in the way a movie might show. Slamming doors or thunderous shouts. It happened in moments you could almost miss, like those stretches of Montana sky before a storm rolls in. I still remember the way he ruffled my hair when I was little, his laughter booming through our sunlit kitchen. He was gentle, the kind of father who patched scraped knees and sang off-key to old Johnny Cash records on Sunday mornings. But after Mom, after Trish and Emily, the warmth in Dad's eyes slowly faded. At first, it was subtle. He came home later than usual, his hugs a little stiffer, the space between us at the dinner table stretching wider every week. Where he used to ask about my day, now he asked if I had anything to do with whatever new mishap had been reported by Trish or Emily. One especially cold January evening, I found him alone in the garage, tinkering with his old truck. The yellow light fell in a lonely pool around him. I hesitated in the doorway, unsure if I was interrupting or trespassing. "Dad?" I started, my voice so small it surprised even me. He didn't look up. "Did you leave the freezer door open?" "I wasn't even home this afternoon," he sighed, finally setting down his wrench. For a moment, I saw the effort it took for him to meet my eyes. "I don't know who else it would be, Rebecca. These things keep happening." A fierce protest welled up, but I swallowed it. What was the point? My words never seemed to reach past the thick, invisible wall that had sprung up between us. Instead, we fell into silence, the kind that settles between people who once knew each other by heart, but now stand on opposite shores. As weeks blurred into months, Dad's trust shrank further. He deferred more and more to Trish. If she said I'd made a mess, that was the end of it. If Emily said I'd moved her school books again, Dad would shoot me a look of disappointment that churned my insides. Sunday dinners became a battlefield of tight-lipped exchanges and knife-edged tension, and I lost count of how many times I retreated to my small attic bedroom just to escape the cold. I tried, God knows, I tried to find my way back to him. I cleaned the house top to bottom, cooked meals, even left notes, reminding myself to double-check every chore and lock every window. But it was never enough. Trust is a fragile thing, and once shards of doubt begin to grow, they cut deep, no matter how much you try to patch them over. One night, as snow whispered against the windows and the house glowed with holiday lights, I overheard Dad and Trish whispering in the kitchen. Her voice was tight with accusation. His was lower, edged in frustration. Trish insisted I was sabotaging their new family. "She resents us. She doesn't want this family to work," she insisted. Dad's response was muffled, but the defeat in his tone was clear. Hearing that, I understood. He wasn't just choosing a side. He was losing the ability to see me at all. That realization stung more than all the accusations combined. Not because I didn't expect it by then, but because I still ached for the old warmth, the shared jokes, and late-night talks Dad and I once had. Now, he was a shadow, flickering through the hallways, reluctant to confront the pain or dig for the truth. Instead, he let the silence expand, filling our home with a coldness that no pile of blankets could ever chase away. I kept hoping, though. Maybe if I proved my innocence, if I could just show him beyond a doubt that I wasn't the villain in their story, I'd get my father back. Until then, I lived with the knowledge that some heartbreaks come not with a bang, but with a slow, relentless chill. The kind that seeps into your bones and settles there, quietly reminding you that nothing in family or life is promised forever. Facing the storm and fighting for justice, giving in never crossed my mind. Not when the future felt so uncertain. Not when every step at home was a risk. I started documenting everything. I kept a small notebook hidden inside an old library book, jotting down the date and time whenever something weird or accusatory happened. A scarf missing from the coat rack, wrote it down. Connie's perfume bottle suddenly turned up empty. Noted who was home that night. The habit gave me a sense of control, a way to keep my feet underneath me when the house felt like quicksand. But journaling wasn't enough. The weight of injustice demanded more. I began searching for patterns, paying sharper attention to Lily's and Connie's habits. I noticed Lily often hovered near the kitchen, right before something went missing. On a hunch, I checked the security camera feed Dad had set up after a string of minor thefts in the neighborhood. Most times, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. But after one heated accusation about Connie's missing bracelet, I reviewed the footage and caught a fleeting glimpse of Lily slipping into Connie's room when no one was supposed to be home. I started asking around quietly, never wanting to sound paranoid. At the supermarket, I dropped casual questions with neighbors about who'd seen what and when. A couple of times, Mrs. Hughes, next door, mentioned seeing Lily wander off unsupervised, or Connie searching the mailbox late at night. These weren't proofs, not yet, just puzzle pieces. Every afternoon, after work or classes at the community college, I traced back the day's events, lining them up beside my growing stash of notes.
It's okay, Lily.
I even reached out to Mrs. Anderson at the town's corner store, where Lily sometimes lingered after school. With enough stories, patterns began to emerge. Consistent, small inconsistencies in their accounts, and sly glances exchanged when accusations surfaced. Each discovery made the injustice I felt both sharper and, oddly, more bearable. I wasn't losing my mind. I wasn't the cause of every catastrophe. I was just caught in a web I had to untangle. Some nights, the loneliness felt bottomless. But each time I thought of giving up, I'd remember Mom's gentle voice and Dad's laughter from years ago. "You've got a strong heart, Rebecca," he used to say. "Don't let them turn it cold." That strength became my promise, not only to clear my name, but to reclaim what family should mean. So I pressed on, marking days on my calendar, checking locks twice, collecting receipts, and piecing together the threads of truth. It was exhausting, and the tension at home only thickened as Connie and Lily seemed to sense my quiet resistance. Still, I clung to the belief that the only way through was straight ahead, that if I mapped out enough details, gathered enough proof, eventually, the truth would stand taller than any lie. Unmasking the truth. The days leading up to the moment of unmasking the truth were some of the longest Rebecca had ever endured. Each hour back at home was heavy with a tense sort of silence, a silence that buzzed beneath the surface, filled with words unsaid and accusations only waiting for their cue. Rebecca knew she needed not only evidence, but the right opportunity to bring it all into the light, a chance where the entire family would be forced to see what was really happening. She was careful. Every step and every conversation were taken with a kind of deliberate caution she'd learned to hone in the halls of her fractured home. Her collection of notes was growing, small, meticulous entries in the battered notebook she kept at the back of her nightstand, highlighted with the date, time, and names involved with each mishap. She had the webcam clips saved quietly to a private email address. Lily sneaking into Connie's room when no one else was supposed to be home. Footage of the supposed stolen wallet being tucked behind the encyclopedias in the living room. And even a few snapshots of Connie hurriedly sifting through drawers late at night when she believed everyone else was asleep. But evidence was only half the battle. Rebecca also needed to rebuild some measure of courage. She needed to be ready for the fallout. In her mind, She played out the scene dozens of times. Would they yell, deny, storm out? Would her father finally see her for who she really was? Or would the lies win again? One chilly November afternoon, after a particularly sharp exchange, where she'd been blamed for misplacing Lily's birthday package, Rebecca made her decision. She waited until dinner, when the entire family sat around the oval table. The tension was palpable. Her father's eyes were wary, Connie looked smug, and Lily shot nervous glances between her mother and Rebecca. The scene was set. Rebecca cleared her throat, heart pounding. She reached into her backpack, pulling out the old notebook and a flash drive. "I have something to show everyone," she said, her voice steadier than she thought possible. The room fell silent. Her father looked at her quizzically, but Connie rolled her eyes, and Lily shrank back as if she'd seen a ghost. Rebecca started by reading excerpts from the notebook. Dates, descriptions, observations, each carefully logged. At first, her audience fidgeted in their seats. But as she went on, the sheer pattern of events became undeniable. Then, she plugged her flash drive into the laptop on the counter, bringing up the webcam footage for all to see. With every new clip, the color on Connie's face drained a little further. Lily audibly gasped when a clear shot played of her, tucking the missing wallet into the bookshelf. The very wallet she had insisted Rebecca must have taken. For a long minute, nobody spoke. The only sound was the faint hum of the refrigerator in the background. Rebecca felt her breath catch in her throat, a moment suspended in time. The weight of months of suspicion, hurt, and isolation bearing down all at once. Finally, her father broke the silence. He looked at Rebecca, and something in his face wrenched open, like a window finally admitting air after being shut for too long. Why didn't you show us this before?" His voice crackled with disbelief, and underneath it, shame. Rebecca tried to keep her voice calm, though her hands shook. "You never asked for my side. No one did. Every time I tried, I was told to stop making excuses. I needed proof you couldn't ignore." Connie's eyes were wide, her composure shattered. "It was just a misunderstanding," she started to say, but the evidence was irrefutable. Lily's lip trembled, and, for the first time, tears slipped down her cheeks. I'm sorry. I didn't think it would go this far." The truth, now unearthed, changed the pressure in the room. Her father pushed his chair back and covered his face with his hands, a gesture of defeat and regret. For so long, he had chosen doubt over his own daughter, had let suspicion eat away at the remnants of his family. There were no easy words to restore what had been lost. Rebecca felt a strange blend of vindication and sorrow. She had proven her case, but the victory was bittersweet. Trust could not be mended overnight, and the hurts would linger for much longer than the false accusations ever had. Yet, looking at her trembling stepsister and stunned stepmother, Rebecca understood that confronting the truth head-on was the only path toward any genuine healing, however slow it might be. For days after, the household was somber, each member privately wrestling with their part in the story. Connie attempted weak apologies, but Rebecca could barely meet her gaze. Lily avoided Rebecca altogether, barely peeking out from her bedroom, until eventually she offered a quiet, stammered apology nobody forced her to make. Most surprising was her father, who tried to rebuild bridges he spent months tearing down, finding small ways to show he wanted his daughter's trust back, offering help with college applications, making pancakes on Saturday mornings, and sometimes just sitting with Rebecca in the living room, not saying a word, but staying there all the same. The ordeal had ended, but the consequences lingered. Still, as Rebecca packed her things for college and prepared to leave, she knew she had reclaimed a piece of herself. Lies had warped her family, but it was the truth, finally revealed, finally undeniable, that gave her a fighting chance to move forward, facing the aftermath as a family. The moment the truth finally came out was more like a slow unraveling than a single dramatic confrontation. The night of Rebecca's revelation echoed through the Williams household. The evidence, the timestamps, the camera footage, the meticulously kept notes made denial impossible. Gone were the days when an accusation could be brushed off or suspicion redirected with a well-timed tear. Connie and Lily had been exposed, but the real burden was only beginning. Now, the question that hung over every member of the family was, what do we do with the truth? Rebecca sat in her small, familiar bedroom, upstairs, with the house unusually quiet around her. The adrenaline rush of vindication had faded into a bruised kind of exhaustion. The walls that had witnessed her tears and muffled sobs now felt like silent companions in her bittersweet victory. Downstairs, her father, David, was dealing with the aftermath of his own choices, wandering restlessly from room to room. He avoided everyone, especially Rebecca. Old routines were broken. Dinner table silence had become impenetrable, and no one lingered in the kitchen anymore for small talk or shared gossip. The damage to the family fabric was profound, tangible in every slow-motion greeting and half-hearted apology. Connie, exposed and embarrassed, wrestled visibly with her guilt. She brought nervous cups of tea to Rebecca's door, but never lingered, uttering half-finished apologies in passing without looking up. There was no easy way for her to reclaim dignity after months of deceit. Lily, meanwhile, stayed mostly shut in her own bedroom, her anger replaced by remorse, so intense it made her presence almost evaporate. The girl who once orchestrated blame now spoke in whispers and retreated rather than risk eye contact with Rebecca. David took the longest to confront his own shortcomings. The weight of guilt was visible in the set of his shoulders, in the way he lingered by Rebecca's door without knocking, just standing there, as if waiting for the courage to face what he'd done. He began writing small notes and sliding them under the door. "Hope you're okay. Want to make pancakes Saturday." He fumbled his way through apologies, stumbling over words and memories. The emotional ice was thick and slow to thaw, but at least David tried, pushing through awkwardness for the first time in months. The house itself seemed to grieve, its warmth replaced by uncertainty and fragility. Chores were performed in quiet parallel. There were no more family movie nights, no shared bowls of popcorn or spontaneous laughter. Even the family dog, usually playful, sensed the tension and kept close to Rebecca, as though she was the only safe harbor left in the storm. With the dust of secrets settled, each family member had to face themselves. Rebecca walked a tightrope, wondering if true forgiveness was ever possible. Connie one day knocked timidly on Rebecca's door, hands trembling as she finally spoke. "I was wrong. I let my insecurities and fear get the better of me. I'm so sorry. It wasn't dramatic. It didn't need to be." The words carried a weight that no argument or justification could lighten. Lily's apology came later, slipped under Rebecca's bedroom door on a sheet of lined notebook paper, written in uneven handwriting. "I never meant to hurt you so much. I just wanted my mom to be happy. I made it all up because I was scared. And I'm really sorry." Lily stayed away for some time after that, as if afraid her very presence would reopen wounds she'd helped inflict. David's path to redemption was both the hardest and the most important for Rebecca. He tried quietly to mend the relationship, cooking her favorite meals, offering help with homework, staying in the kitchen after dinner to listen, really listen, when she spoke. One evening, as the first winter snow fell outside, David sat beside Rebecca on the old living room couch, the one where they used to share Sunday mornings. The words came haltingly, but there was no mistaking his pain. I failed
So
you.
we left around 11.
I'm not sure
just
how
like
to
we told
fix
him.
this,
Yeah.
but I
11.
want to try, if you'll let me. Rebecca, for perhaps the first time since her mother's death, allowed herself to feel seen and heard by her father. Yet nothing could instantly restore what the months of suspicion had stolen. Trust, once fractured, doesn't heal in a straight line. There were tense moments, awkward silences, and many days when Rebecca excused herself from the table just to escape the heaviness. She tried to let Lily inch back into her life, first by accepting the apology note, later by standing together in the same kitchen without the charged air crackling around them. Rebecca even found it within herself to comfort Lily, albeit cautiously, when the younger girl broke down crying over a failed test. "You're not alone, you know," she said quietly, amazed by her own capacity for compassion despite everything. The wider community was quick to learn what had happened. Neighbors whispered, teachers offered knowing nods, and even Rebecca's closest friends tiptoed around her with an awkward mix of sympathy and discomfort. The Williamses had no choice but to weather the storm, holding their heads high, or at least pretending nothing had changed, as they rebuilt their reputations, as well as their relationships. School counselors called both sisters in to check on their emotional well-being. David, to his credit, showed up for every session, finally proving through action a willingness to put his daughter's needs first. Over time, some things improved. The family began to eat together again, albeit quietly. Connie worked hard to earn back trust, volunteering herself for counseling, and Rebecca allowed her the space to prove she could be a better partner and stepmother. Lily started leaving her bedroom door ajar, joining Rebecca for late-night cereal or cautiously sharing pieces of her life. The progress was slow and sometimes painful, but real. The journey through the aftermath wasn't about erasing what happened. It was about learning from it. Rebecca discovered her strength, not just in clearing her own name, but in refusing to let bitterness define her. She promised herself she wouldn't let the experience close her heart, even if she would never again be quite so trusting. For the rest of the family, the lesson was equally clear. Trust is a living thing, requiring care, humility, and daily choice. By the time Rebecca packed her things for college, the household had settled into something resembling peace. They would never be the picture-perfect family, but they were honest, cautious, but connected by the hard-won bond of a truth faced and survived together. Each member carried scars, but with them came the possibility of forgiveness and, eventually, hope, Rebecca's next step. After everything that had happened, stepping out into the world on her own felt both daunting and exhilarating. Rebecca knew she could no longer define her future by the limits of her childhood home or the scars left behind by resentment and blame. The moment she packed the last of her journals and favorite books into cardboard boxes, she felt a door quietly close on that old life, a life marked by suspicion, heartache, and the long battle to be heard. Denver was nothing like the little Colorado town where she'd grown up. The city's skyline stretched endlessly. Crowds bustled with purpose, and anonymity washed over her like a cold, cleansing river. She found a small apartment not far from campus, a sunlit space with creaky wooden floors and a window view of distant mountains. Every morning, while she made coffee in her tiny kitchenette, she reminded herself that she'd earned this freedom. It hadn't been given or easily won. Rebecca started classes at the university that fall, majoring in psychology. She found herself drawn to stories of resilience, determined to understand the complicated roots of trust, vulnerability, and human forgiveness. At night, as she pored over textbooks, she couldn't help but reflect on her own journey. She remembered the countless times she questioned her sanity within those tense family walls, how easily reality could be bent by someone else's accusations, and how long it took to reclaim her sense of self. Balancing a part-time job at the bustling city library, Rebecca also joined volunteer groups on campus, organizations supporting young adults who'd experienced domestic conflict. She listened to others share stories of being disbelieved, of fighting for recognition and justice in the very places they were supposed to be safest. Though her own pain was far from unique, Rebecca realized that the lessons she'd learned, patience, careful observation, and the belief that truth matters even when no one wants to face it, had equipped her to help others find their way through darkness. Building a life from the ground up wasn't easy. There were nights when the loneliness felt almost as suffocating as it once had at home. She'd wander city parks, phone in hand, tempted to call her father or even Lily, but each time she would pause, weighing the memory of what had happened against the fragile hope that, maybe with time, wounds would heal. For now, she let the distance be a space where growth could take root. Rebecca celebrated small milestones, a good grade on a tough exam, a warm note from a professor, a sincere thank you from a new friend. She set gentle boundaries with her family, responding to messages when she was ready, and never out of obligation or guilt. Connie occasionally sent thoughtful emails, always apologetic. Lily sent photographs from her school projects, as if to reach across those miles with small reminders of a relationship slowly mending. Her father, for his part, wrote letters, handwritten, sometimes tear-stained, sharing memories of Rebecca's childhood and admitting when he still felt incapable of saying sorry out loud. Unlike before, Rebecca didn't need their validation. She valued honesty and the effort over perfection. In time, Rebecca grew more comfortable claiming her own peace. She decorated her apartment with artwork by local students and filled her bookshelves with stories of survival. She spent weekends hiking nearby trails, breathing in the scent of pine and wildflowers, often stopping midway to scribble thoughts in a new journal, a tradition she'd begun in the darkest days of her family crisis. She stayed true to her promise. She wouldn't let anger govern her life. Rebecca practiced forgiveness, not as a way to forget, but as a way to free herself from the grip of the past. She let herself feel joy again, real, unburdened happiness that came from long walks, late-night talks with friends, city lights, and the solemn promise that she would never lose sight of her own worth again. By the time her second year of college rolled around, Rebecca looked back on the girl who had once been so desperate for understanding and realized how far she'd come. The injustice she'd suffered had marked her, but it had also forged resilience and a fierce compassion for those who fought similar battles. She vowed to use her knowledge to help others discover their own light. Each day, as she looked in the mirror before heading out into the city, she saw not just the survivor of a painful past, but the author of her own story, one defined by courage, growth, and the steadfast conviction that only by facing hard truths could anyone truly move forward.